Today we're going to be going through installing this Yamaha R3 decal kit. This here is the way that you would receive it, where it's packed up, all the pieces are cut out individually, it's not rolled up and everything is all together, which this way is nicer because it saves you probably about an hour cutting out yourself with the scissors and that type of thing. And you also have this layout, so whenever you open this up, it does help to bracket into sections. There's the likes of the front fender, the nose, the tank, the tail, the upper and lower side, the belly pan and side fairing. That there just makes it a lot easier because there are a lot of pieces. Best thing from here is to set aside, you know, a half a day or even a full day where you just think, right, there's nothing else that I need to get started on. I'm gonna do this install, whether it's one kit or if you have spare fairings or a second bike or anything like that. You can do it while having, you know, good patience and not wanting to rush, because although this isn't the hardest thing in the world, it does help to be able to take your time. So I'd tidy a workbench similar to this and around the motorbike as well, and I get a few tools and bits and pieces that's going to help out. The first thing is cleaning the fairings, so I'll use isopropyl alcohol and clean cloth. Sometimes maybe take something stronger to clean off if there's you know, marks of insects, or if there's the likes of oil residue or polish or anything like that. Then I will also have scissors and a knife. Maybe on the odd occasion with the knife you might have to trim an edge if it's ran over. This kit has been templated based off YRD R3 fairings. And then the likes of the heat gun, so I will use that on areas that has got a bit of curvature, and the vinyl will just need a little bit of help to soften up and get applied in place without creasing on you. So I'll just show you how much and when I use the heat gun and that type of thing. And then finally I've just got this squeegee, which I do use on the likes of flat surfaces, but a lot of time I'll just use my fingers and thumb. But yeah, it is good to have something like this, even the likes of a debit card or a driver's license. And then aside from that, there are just a couple of tools like a screwdriver, Allen keys, what's required, because I will apply these decals with the fairings fitted to the bike, because they're held in place, especially if it's just myself. There's fairings not trying to slide around the bench while you're trying to apply these two. The only piece of fairing that I normally remove to apply the decals to is the belly pan, which I'll show you later. It is one of the bigger pieces, so yeah, that's why I'll leave it to later. I get sort of warmed up on the smaller, more straightforward pieces. Alright, just going to clean this bike now and then get started. It's good to clean all of the bike on the one go, so you haven't forgotten or missed an area. I've already been around and tested this decal kit, so the fairings are clean as well, but just don't want to overlook doing this. It's important as well, if there's any sort of like deep ridges where decals could go into, you really want to pay particular attention to them as well. Okay, so you can see that I've opened up the pack of decals, and I've used the decal layout to separate them. So over on the left, I've got the upper and lower tail. I've got the left and right hand side belly pan decals. Then I've got the front fender beside the tail. To the right of the fender is the tank, and then above that in the middle and to the right are the two side fairing decal sets, and then just bottom right we have the front nose. So that there just helps me work through each area. The first decal I normally go to is on the front fender. So we've got two hole cutouts here, and normally I'll try and get myself positioned square on as possible, and for this, rather than taking all of the backing paper off, which you'll see a lot, we just remove a strip of it. And the good thing about this is you can see the holes. So we'll be following a straight line along the fairing here, or the fender, and then also these holes that they line up. Having the backing paper as well helps keep structure in the decal. Make sure that we're happy with that. We'll just guide this piece as well to make sure that it follows nicely where we want it to go. So you can see that there went on really nicely without a lot of stress or any stress, which would have been helped with that relief cut. But if you really want, you can use the heat gun and you can apply some heat to just soften up the adhesive a bit more. And then you can just run your hand around it again, make sure that all the edges are properly sealed onto the fairing. And then we can move on to the next part. The next piece is the front of the fender. So this here's a good practice actually for the likes of this one. There's a little bit of curvature, and the method that I use is removing a small strip of backing paper from down the center. So just create 3 small tears at the top, just around 15 mil wide. I just leave them away from each other. So what that does is it takes away some of the backing paper, but it's not just wanting to catch and stick to everything and make life really difficult. So now I stand directly in front and try and touch the edge down onto it visually, for me, what looks as central as possible. And that's looking pretty good. So now I just remove backing paper from one side. we'll want to try and create nice even line or gap between the other piece. If there's little bits here that want to bunch up, that's whenever the heat gun works best. Apply a little bit of heat and then just take your time, just sort of rubbing the excess material to either side, and it gets done nice and flat. And then you don't want to do anything out of the ordinary on this side, just same process. Because you use some heat to work out the creases, you want to apply some heat again at the end, which will break the memory and stop it wanting to pull back to that original shape. This piece didn't have to work too hard, so it's not really extreme or anything, but I'd normally just do it as an extra sort of precaution. Just run around the edge here, make sure all is down nicely. If you do apply a good bit of heat, just watch that it doesn't burn your fingers. The next piece that I'm going to apply is the front number plate piece. So you can see that it covers from right down here up to the top. You might actually want to, in this case, you could just use scissors and cut off along the white line if you did want to make it a little easier for yourself. Sometimes, well, around the fairings, it's not a completely perfect curve. So on this particular one, I've increased the height of this slightly. So the way I would go about applying this is I would apply this area first, and as I start, I'll work up, get this side completely on, and then I'll work on this side. So as I would move my way up, I would remove this bolt, get it applied in place, cut the hole out, get this back in, up to here, take this out, same as before, take it out, cut the hole, get it back in, and it just keeps everything held in place. You just want to be careful on some of these. If there's any dust or anything like that there that comes out with the threads, so maybe want to take them out first just to make sure it's not really dirty with dust or paint or anything like that. Yeah, just to make sure that it doesn't go onto the adhesive and then it shows through with because the likes of dust, that sort of thing, you can see it. Up here we've got a little bit of paint damage, so whenever I go to apply this, I'm definitely going to be trying my best to get it right the first time. I'm fortunate that it's up here. It's the last little part, but if I had to remove this, that there would just lift more paint, and then because the paint's stuck covering the adhesive, that area won't stick. So yeah, typically these decals, this is pretty much a full coverage kit, so it could go on to a gel coat, or if it is painted, then ideally a professional paint job. So like the front fender, I have removed a little strip off the back, remove the little strip off the back, and I'm just going to get down onto my knees and make sure that I'm nice and square in front to make sure that I'm plying it in the right position. You want to try and have as many reference points as possible, just to make sure that you're not going to get caught out at some stage. Because if you need a reposition, now would be the best time. I can see it goes over more to the right more than anything. That is looking better. So just get it properly applied in the middle. And then from here, I'm just going to remove backing paper off this area, just keep it clear of the bolt. A little bit of tape would actually probably be handy. Keep that out of the way. Just checking, I can see that it wants to go out a little, but I want to keep it close to the yellow fairing line, because ideally I would like to just keep it on the edge and keep the yellow blanked out. Starting to bunch up there due to the curvature, so a little bit of heat at this stage would help. Yeah, so you can see that there was starting to become a little bit of hard work just at this point. So I lifted it up down to here and applied a bit of heat, and that there just allowed a little bit more room to spread what was trying to bunch up in that one area. So now we're going to remove this. We'll remove this, get it applied in place. Normally if there is dust, I'll try and apply all the way up to where the backing paper has been removed. Just use the knife now so we can find where the hole is. And then just cut inside it, so you're not cutting onto the surface of the fairing, especially if it's painted. So you can see that because we've cut on the inside of where the hole is, it's nice and tidy around. If there is a nut on the other side, the best way to keep the quality of the decal looking good is to just hold that in place and have a socket or spanner on the other side and tighten from there. Otherwise, whenever it gets very tight, it will start to twist the decal. and obviously try and get this right. All right, so I'll get the hole cut out for this, get this back into place fixed, and then I will also finish off this side and we'll get moved on to this piece here. Okay, so now that we have the front number plate piece on, it was actually, I'd say it's fairly tricky. You could cut it there and just bracket it up for yourself, but now we'll move on to this piece. So what we want to do really is get the light blue stripe on this piece aligning with this one, but even if it overlaps or something like that, that there will be okay, because main thing that we want to do is sort of follow this outer shape, although there should be no issues anyway. Just have quite a deep ridge in here. So the way I will approach this is, I think I will remove from the backing paper at the top. Just can't remember the last way I did it, to see if there's an easy way or not. Just work my way down. Yeah. Just overlapping a fraction of a millimeter, just to try and have that nice continual look. Yeah, that worked out nicely. Then just two other pieces for the front. Almost forgot about the World Superbike replica headlights. So this one here, just slot into that piece, and then here we have this just as a little filler. I'll not show you that because we've got a lot more pieces to put on, so we'll try and rattle through it fairly quickly. So now we're moving on to the side fairings. So obviously there's a lot of pieces, a lot of fairings to cover here. So the type of order that I would tend to go with is I would start with this piece. Just get it located here, lead along and up the side of the seat. Then the next one, so there's actually a cutout here for this hole, so I'd probably try to locate it first and then get the rest of it lined up. And then the next piece actually has two hole cutouts. I don't typically do the hole cutouts because if you're a few mil out it can look like it's badly off. But in the couple of times that I've tried this, tested this kit, it's worked out pretty well. So I'll have this piece, and then what it lines up with is this one. So this one here, the corner can slot nicely into it, and then that there is going to start to allow us to get this next piece on, and it should start to flow. Same thing. I think all of these pieces actually will start with just removing this backing paper off the side. You know what, I've actually removed this from the wrong side. I should have removed backing paper from here, because then I could have moved this around, got into the perfect place. So now I have to try and get it right. And then it's probably a good lesson there. See me having to reposition it a few times, whereas if I took the backing paper from here, probably would have got it right first time. This is a tricky little area here, just needs a little bit of heat. And again, if you really wanted, you could just cut that off there with the scissors and just apply it as a separate piece. but that's not too bad. Yeah. You can see I'm not really using squeegee. It's because of all the curves and the edges, you can kind of feel if there's going to be some vinyl that bunches up. So I'm starting to line up this YRD, and then you know what? You can lean it upwards, you know, you can manipulate it to where you want it to go. So we're just wanting to get it to line up nicely within reason, reasonable tolerance for the sponsor logo. We do need the heat gun for this area in here. So that was actually quite big amount of air that was trapped, but with the air release adhesive we were able to just slowly work it out of it. So we just want to put more heat into this now, probably a good bit of heat to break that memory. So obviously the tank, you know, where does this go for the perfect position? Best thing to do is follow the cut line at the bottom. So it's looking pretty good there for where it needs to go. Sometimes after struggling with a piece for a while and I use the heat gun, that sort of helps straight away. I wonder why, you know, I didn't go to it sooner. Yeah. It's nice whenever I do go to it, that it does work in my favor. Sometimes it's not the best thing for it. Okay, so the next piece I'm going to apply is the side fairing piece. It makes the most sense because if I go to apply these, I'm going to need this off. This piece is best to apply whenever it's fitted to the bike. So I might as well apply it now before I have to take it off to apply these. So the way I like to apply this one, because it's such a big piece compared to these other ones where I remove a piece from the end, I'll do it similar to the nose where I'll remove a bit out of the middle and I'll try and get it perfect on one side, and then I'll work my way back, stick it into place, and then check that it lines up across the other, and then if it does, I can remove the backing paper off here, work my way down here, and then work my way through these fasteners, get those all done, and then up here at the top do the same with the bolt. Squeegee is really good on this one because nice flat surface, and because you're trying to sort of manage this large piece by yourself, having the squeegee, you can get a lot applied quickly rather than going up and down with your thumb. So get an area removed out of here. This is an accurate piece as well, so you do want to get it right. But obviously if you run over by a couple of mil or something like that, you know, that's not the end of the world. You can you know, you can always trim. So I reckon we'll take this one off first. Again, you can see this is a good way. I've got the decal applied up to here, so if I take this bolt out, if there was going to be any like dust, say from the fairings or from paint, it would typically fall away there. And there's still the backing paper as well, which protects the decal. So a good thing to do in this case is to now cut out the hole again. It's a little tricky. I want to stay out of the way of the camera, but at the same time it really makes a big difference being able to get right in front of it. Just a little bit of personal preference, just wanting to try and create a nice little even gap. That's worked out well. So to finish this off at the bottom with the quick release fasteners, I'll just take this nut off, take the bolt out, as well as quick release fasteners. Get this here applied, get the 3 holes cut out, ready for it to go back on, and we'll get these pieces applied next. Alright, so now we've got this finished off with our holes cut out for the quick release fasteners. Now we will go on to this area here. So the first one sits on the top. You know, this bike's painted, and there's the yellow area here which matches it. So theoretically, you could cut that out there if you wanted. But we've got these colors and they're quite curved and everything. But from the side, it's going to look all straight and lined up. So we're going to get this piece in place first. And then we have this one that sweeps around the side. And then this one that goes along there, which you couldn't do those 2 pieces in the same, or else you'd have to have a big relief cut in the middle. So I just made them as separate pieces. This is tricky, or at least on the lift anyway, because the front wheel is held in place. So you just gotta work underneath the grips. So probably the most critical thing I did use up in here as a guide, but really you want this piece here following along the edge. just had to lift that because there was a little bit of air and it was going to crease unless I just lifted the whole corner. This little piece here fills this out. Then ideally we are just lining up with these colors. Slightly off. And then finally, we just have this piece. So the thing to look out for on this one is this area here lines up with that. So if we remove the backing paper out of that area, I'll go back to here. So you want to just get it to overlap a little the piece above, so it all blends in. And then this here, it goes underneath, and you'll see why at the end. Just ties in with the larger side frame piece. See him just sort of pushing up to try and get a little fraction of a mil to allow it to overlap. Alright, so that is that. The side fairing piece could go back on, and we could work on the tank or the tail, but it's probably as good a time as any for me to complete this work on the other side, get the belly pan on, and we'll go through, or get the belly pan off, and we'll go through applying the decals to it. Okay, so on the belly pan on each side we've got 3 pieces for this R3. We have this main piece here, which again, if you really wanted, you could cut it in half or something like that. And then we just have a small triangular piece that's there. And then this little piece that sort of fills it out and blends the 3 together. So just gonna remove a piece out of the middle. That's maybe the rule of thumb to go by for large pieces. Just take backing paper out of the middle. Aim to hold it in place. And then while you're holding in place, just trying to work your way back to get it secured. So that's looking pretty good. That's what happens when we try to rush and you're using a squeegee. You can just glide over the top and create a large air bubble. You can see the belly pan wanting to move away from me, which is frustrating, but you just try and be patient. just whenever you get to secure it, you do want to be a bit more firm then with the squeegee. All right. I feel like the main thing I don't want to do is run over this line where it connects to the side fairings above it, where these quick release fasteners are, so just getting it lined up. Although probably position it, line it up with this middle piece, get it where you want, and then start to touch this other piece down to try and get it right first time, which I didn't. Okay, tell you what, that was a tricky piece, and if anything, I'm a little too far back, because you can see here it's really affected this, so I'm probably going to like use the knife and trim just a couple of mil here just to make sure there's clearance, and over time this piece doesn't want to lift up and get, you know, collect dirt and just look untidy. But yeah, just with this deep ridge in here, that's what, it's hard to get it in there without these one to stick, and yeah. So if anything, you know, you could cut it there and there if you wanted, you know. This is not even really going to be noticeable. And then we've just got this last little piece, and what angle does it sit at? It'll sit underneath there, but we can even put it on whenever we fit the belly pan back on. So yep, this little piece harder than this piece. So if it's starting to get frustrating and you just feel like just ripping it off, rather than do that, cut into a couple of pieces and get it on, and you know, get it looking nice. So now we're on to the tank, and we've got the large piece on each side of the tank. So we've got a number of different pieces. So there's this one here, which is down the middle, and then this one here towards the front. So whenever they're in place, that there can act as a good center point for these two. So you can make sure that you can get the white line of this aligned with this one, and because the side tank piece is yellow and it's matching the yellow here, if we have to have a mil or a couple or a few mil gap, that there's not as bad, at least over here with the different color compared to the fairings. It's going to look nice and tidy. And then we just have these small detail pieces which are just going to sit in here, and they can go on at the end and fill out the complete coverage of the tank. All right, the first one I'm going to do is this center piece, and I want to get it right at this point up here. I'm actually going to choose to take backing paper off. Yeah, that there's looking good and central, just standing at the back of the bike looking forward. And I've tried to break these into pieces where, you know, you're not expected to be like a wrap specialist. I don't have like, I've done a wrap course, but really my experience for this comes from just growing up racing motocross and each season just applying a new set of graphics, and just wanting them to look good. These next two pieces are kind of the critical ones. So you can see, if you hold this one into place, you can see where it's supposed to go. So I would say my main interest will be getting these lines here to follow, to locate in the right place, and then really the rest of it, which is yellow, that just falls into place nicely. So just taking a little bit of the backing paper off. That looks quite good there. It's not too bad. It's lined up perfectly with the side piece here, and then it's just kind of opened up till about a 3mm gap. So as far as sort of tracker race bike goes, that there's, you know, it's basically within the tolerance that I've been aiming to keep. these smaller pieces are kind of best to do at the end, because you can see if it's going to fit in perfectly, or if you have to split the difference if there's a couple of mil gap. There is little indents for, you know, where the Yamaha logo is, and you know, on the street bike where there's the actual vents. I'm not really stressing too much about having these perfectly applied in here. For doing an overall kit, it's a decent sized job, and there's going to be little areas where you might find where the fairing is slightly different on the left hand side compared to the right areas. So whenever you get it applied, there might be some places where you'll have to trim with a knife, or just yeah, be happy with the way it's going to be in position. All right, going on to the tail, we have this large piece here. There's quite a few sort of indents or ridges that made me wonder whether I should make into 3 separate pieces. Well, 1, 2, and then 3. But then it would break up sponsors and brand logos and various things like that. And over the last couple of years, I've tested a few different ways, and I think there's a way that, you know, you can get it on very nicely with practically little to no heat needed, and it looks good. So yeah, and then before I start on that, before I forget, there's this piece here, and it sits underneath the tail. It fills the area, so there's nothing out of the ordinary. I just take a bit of the backing paper off here, kneel down in behind it, get it on nice and square, and work it right up to the top. So that's where that piece goes. So just going to remove some of the backing paper from the center. Alright, so the first thing, so you don't want to put it too far forward, because if the rider is, say it's a tall rider and sits back, you don't want the leathers rubbing up against the decal, because it'll just make them a little worse for wear too soon. So if we get this centrally located, and you can check, you know, what's the distance here compared to here, and it looks like it's within a 1-2 mil max, so I'm happy with that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to start to lead this down into the ridge. So normally I think whenever people are wrapping vehicles, doing color change, they'll put this flat over the top, they'll heat it up, and then they'll depress it. But because we've got, you know, detail here, logos and everything, if we do that and it stretches it, it's going to distort the logo. Plus as well, because this vinyl and laminate is thicker than, you know, a color vinyl, it's going to be harder for it to stay there in the long term, and I have found whenever I have tried that, it hasn't stayed. So this way is definitely my preferred method. The squeegee helps on this occasion. It, you know, it gets it down into where we want it to go. And you really want to try and get it in without having any air trapped, just on both sides. So that's it in there, and so now you would think, well, we've put it in there, it's going to create a lot of extra work for us, but we'll basically just take it as it comes. Actually hasn't been as bad as I've thought whenever I first tried it. So you want to get it applied down at the back, or just at least double check that you're still on course for it to be central. You know what, this is probably the best I've ever done on this tailpiece. Normally use the heat gun to get me out of trouble at some stage. So on the likes of that, you can probably just get the heat gun if you like. Just put on these sort of edges and everything and make sure it's gonna stay, but you know, there's no reason why it should lift, because we've worked the vinyl down into it without stretching it or overworking it, so that should look perfect. So I'm going to get this piece on underneath now, and then after that there's just one more piece. We're now on to the last piece, which this view also gives you the location of the previous piece that I showed. So this is the piece we have, so it kind of splits into two. So we have one piece running up here, and then the other comes down this way. So what you could do, probably not a bad idea, is to just cut it off at this navy blue line, and it saves probably a little bit extra effort. I'm just keeping the backing paper on the second piece. Definitely don't want it to drop down and touch the tire or something like that. And where we started, we just started a few mil up from the edge, so it just means hopefully if the the rider's leathers are rubbing, they'll rub against the edge, but it'll not catch any overlap of the decal. It's just a little bit of an overlap there, so I'll trim that now. So you can see I've just gone a little on the inside, so that'll just mean that from wear and tear that there's not, again like I mentioned earlier, it's not going to collect any dirt or dust or anything that's going to start to make this piece look untidy. So that is the bike finished now, and it's probably a good time to show you the way I just quickly trimmed it with a knife with a good sharp blade. You want to just go around the bike now, just check to see if any areas that has lifted that maybe needs a bit more heat from the heat gun, or little areas that is overlapping off the edge. It does no harm, just spend 10 minutes going over it and just finishing it off nicely, and it'll just mean that you'll get that much more life out of it. So yeah, there's it. If anybody has watched this for guidance to install their R3 decal kit, or even just get tips for other general decals they get, feel free to let me know if it was helpful, or even more so if you thought, no, can you be a bit more clear on a particular piece and how it's applied, because I do want everybody to be able to apply their decals and be really happy with the end result. Thank you.